All right, guys, here it is. The most stable, healthiest cooking oils that you're going to want to use. Stay tuned. I created Species Nutrition with one mission in mind: to provide bodybuilders and serious athletes with no-nonsense supplements that work. I put my name and reputation on every bottle of Species Nutrition products. If you want to be your absolute best, join the evolution.
RX Television, RxMuscle.com. This is Ask Dave, your 30-minute question. I'm your host, Sadiq Faruqi. So glad you can join us as we sit now 2.5 weeks to the Olympia. A reminder, we will be there in person in Las Vegas. Dave's going to be there. I'm going to be there. Chris Aceto will be there. And then, of course, the mishmash of people that we're going to be finding for our press conference wrap-ups, for our prejudging, for our final wrap-ups. We'll be going around the entire Olympia, going around Vegas. You never know who we're going to bump into, so we're going to make sure to get everybody on camera, on our YouTube channel, on our Instagram. So if you're not already subscribed, subscribe below, hit the notification bell so you won't miss any of our content between now and Olympia weekend. And, of course, on Olympia weekend. On Instagram, official_RxMuscle. Of course, we're going to be loading up our grid, loading up our stories. So we're going to have you well covered wall to wall if you're not going to be there. All of the experiences that we're going to have on Olympia weekend. We're going to take you along for the ride. We're going to go right into the questions. The first two questions on the show from the Dave Palumbo Experience app. First question, is periodization for bodybuilding important? If so, I guess he's asking for you to make a video on it, but I guess you could sort of give your general briefing on it here.
I did the wrong thing. Here's my whole take on training, and I think we've talked about training a lot now, Sid, on this show. And what I think the take-home message, if you watch this on a regular basis, is that the basic core free weight movements are going to build mass, okay, the most in your body. That's not 80% of what you do in the gym is those movements. So, like if you're on chest day, incline bench press or incline dumbbell presses. If you're doing shoulder day, dumbbell shoulder presses or barbell shoulder presses. If you're doing legs, squats, those never change. But changing the other exercises around is not a bad idea because it shocks your body. It's like I'll give you for instance, I started swimming at night. Like it's still really hot here in Florida. It's like 80 degrees at night. I'll go out to the pool and I'll swim a couple laps. I started out doing 2 laps. I was huffing and puffing. Now I'm doing like 25 laps. I swim 25 laps. And the shock to my body, the pain that I was in the first couple of weeks, and I couldn't figure it out. I would wake up in the morning, I'm like, oh, everything hurts. I'm like, well, I wonder why. It doesn't take a rocket science. So doing different stuff will stimulate other muscles. Now, the problem is if you're doing a machine, one day and then the next week you do a different machine, or you change your tempo, maybe going from a little bit higher reps, or do some drop sets or supersets. It's going to work. It's going to stimulate. But those exercises are not what's building the mass. The mass builders are still building the mass. But what they're doing is shocking the body a little bit so that it doesn't catch on to what you're doing. So I think that constantly changing your workouts a little bit every week is something good. Now, people want you to write that out for them. I'm not going to write that out for you. That's like when I go to the gym, I start with incline barbell press, all right, or incline dumbbell press. Then I might go to I might go to, if I did barbell, I might go to the dumbbell presses. Then I'm going to be like, what am I going to do next? You know what? I'm going to do hammer strength incline presses today. Next week, I might go and do hammer strength mid presses. I might go use the Nautilus press machine the next week. I might, do dumbbell flies. One week I might do cable crossover. So that's how I'm always changing my workouts by a little bit every week. I don't do the exact same workout every week, but only for the exercises that are kind of like not the super mass building exercises. Because for those exercises, you shouldn't be changing them around. If squats is what's building your legs, and you're like, you know what, I'm only going to squat once a month so I can shock my body. Well, yeah, but that's the most important movement you're doing. So that you can't change. Dorian Yates said it best. He goes, if you're growing from doing heavy free weight movements, why would you change just for the sake of changing? You don't take out the stuff that's the bread and butter of what you're doing. You might change some of like I said, the subsidiary movements that come toward the end of the workout, just for amusement of your brain and for just shocking your body a little bit. And I think that's the most succinct answer I can give you. There's no definitive, like, you have to do it this way. Because I know guys that do the same workout every single time, and they're huge. I see them in the gym. They look enormous because all they do is the basic movements and then they leave. And those guys look better than the guys that are doing 14 different machines all around the gym. So don't give up the bread and butter of what your workout is. You can change stuff around, for shock value, but at the end of the day, you don't want to replace the main mass builders.
Second question, again, these first two questions from the Dave Palumbo Experience app. Does getting gassy after eating certain foods mean that nutrients in those foods aren't being absorbed and assimilated? I get gas sometimes from quality whey isolate, like Isolyze. Is the protein still being used by my body?
Good question. Here's my rule of thumb, because some things cause gas, and I you know what? I was on this kick for a bunch of years. For some reason, I was eating a lot of vegetables. I was eating like broccoli and kale and pea pods and all kinds of different stuff I was incorporating into my daily, nightly meals. I thought I was being like super healthy. I'm cutting up all those, and I was so gassy at night. And it wasn't that I didn't have diarrhea. I was gassy because vegetables can cause gas. Likewise, certain ingredients, like I know erythritol. Erythritol is a pretty much non-absorbed sweetener. So you see that in a lot of these artificial sweetening, combinations like monk fruit, erythritol. And it tastes good, but if you take too much of it, a lot of times your gut bacteria will ferment it and you'll get gassy from it. That doesn't mean you're not absorbing the food that you're eating with it. However, let's move away from just gas. Let's take a product like lactose, okay, that's in dairies. You can't digest lactose like I can. What happens is the gut bacteria ferment the sugar, the lactose, okay? And what happens is you get like tremendous inflammatory responses in the gut. And that causes a lot of fluid, into the being released rather than absorbed in the colon. The stuff moves through too fast and you're basically pooping it out undigested. You're just fermenting this lactose, and then you get diarrhea from that. When you get diarrhea, okay, when you're from taking a product like lactose because you're not digesting it properly, you definitely can malabsorb the protein that's associated with it. So if you're taking like a whey concentrate that's very high in lactose, and you start fermenting that stuff, you probably are malabsorbing a lot of that protein. That's why I always tell people, you get what you pay for when it comes to protein powders. Yeah, mine might be a little bit more expensive, my Isolyze, but you don't get any gas or diarrhea from that because you're not fermenting. There's no lactose to ferment in there. But other products that have higher amounts of lactose, you might not absorb. So in that sense, you might not absorb that. Likewise, if you eat a pizza pie and you can't really digest lactose and there's so much cheese in there, that might be something you poop out too with diarrhea. So gas doesn't mean as much as like diarrhea and gas do. When you get the diarrhea, that's usually your body's way of saying, you know what, this is an irritant. We would just get rid of this stuff as quickly as possible out of this body because it's really not something we want. Gas could just mean, like I said, certain foods are gassy because the gut bacteria will ferment them and produce a little smelly gas sometimes. That's not going to cause you to not absorb the food. So there is a distinction between malabsorption and just gas production. Now, gas production just might be, embarrassing. I mean, like beans cause gas in a lot of people too. Doesn't mean you're not absorbing the beans. It just means you're you're producing gas from it. So I try to eliminate the vegetables just so I'm not farting my brains out at night. But it's not going to cause me to malabsorb the food. And these two questions were really good. These are from the Dave Palumbo Experience app. Once again, it's an app I charge $29 a month for. You can download it at the Android store or the iTunes store, the Apple store. And you get me as a coach in your back pocket. I answer everyone's questions in an open forum. You see everyone's questions, everyone's answers. All my videos and written stuff I've ever done is in one place. All my protocols, my off-season pre-contest, drug cycles, all that stuff is a very good resource of information. And we're constantly putting up new stuff. I do a Q&A video specifically for the app members every single week. So every week they get like an extra Ask Dave on there. It's a lot of great information. We put up a workout every week. I think you guys will really like it. We have a tremendous amount of app members. I really appreciate the support you guys get, and that's what inspires me to keep doing these. Thank you.
So those first two questions from the Dave Palumbo Experience app. Now we're going to take questions from our Facebook page, our Instagram page, official_RxMuscle.
Let's
Facebook
talk about Titan. Let's talk about
Titan.
Titan.
Yeah. Good call. Before we do that, Titan Medical running a sale, another special. Again, so we're obviously very tight with them. They have a good relationship with us. So when it comes to needs, as far as wait, you got it in front of you?
Yeah, let me
go.
All right.
I was trying to stall.
There's a new fat burner that's available now through Titan. It's called tensofessine. Okay, usually you take about 250 to 500 micrograms a day of the stuff. It's a kind of like a better version. Like a lot of people have a lot of problems with Ozempic and Mounjaro, those GLP-1 peptides, because it bothers their stomach. They sometimes get constipated from it. Some people get nauseous from it. This is a nice alternative. It's kind of like the new player on the block. It doesn't work by the same mechanism. It's a different mechanism it works by, and it seems to burn fat well. I have not tried it, and you know me, I'm completely transparent and honest with you. If I haven't tried something, I can't give you my personal views on it, but I do know people that have used it, okay, in that sense, and have gotten some good fat loss. The research is really good on this drug, and you know, if like I said, if the Mounjaro or Ozempic is not working well, this might be a better option. It's more affordable too. So if you contact TitanMedicalCenter.com, you tell them RxMuscle Dave Palumbo sent you, they're going to give you a really nice discount. They'll explain how to use it. They'll explain what it does. And I think that a lot of people are getting really good results from it. Like I said, it's a nice alternative if you don't like, you know, how you feel on the other compounds, because like I said, some people just don't do. Some people do great on Ozempic and Mounjaro. Other people, they just don't feel that great on it. And you know, as you know, Titan sells the Mounjaro as tirzepatide, which is the chemical name of it, and they sell the Ozempic as semaglutide. So you can still get those from Titan Medical, but this is a new option on the block. Ask them about it. Tell them we sent you, and I know they're doing a sale on it this week. So give them a call, give them a shout out.
So again, questions from our Instagram page, our Facebook page, and now also taking questions from the YouTube audience as well. So for those of you that do watch us here on YouTube, again, we appreciate all your support. We figured we'd open it up for you to ask your questions as well. I'm looking for a cooking oil, something that you would describe as healthy and, more importantly, stable. What would you recommend?
You know, I saw an interesting reel on Instagram about this. You know, it's you know, these reels that I watch, you know, and the TikTok ones I really hate because I think they're not, a lot of them are inaccurate, but the Instagram ones, a lot of them are inaccurate too. So I watch them, especially the science ones, and I like to sometimes point out some mistakes they make. You know, the woman who was going over it, she was explaining what makes a stable cooking oil. Now, obviously, saturated fats are very stable when you heat them, like butter and coconut oil, because they're completely saturated, meaning they have a carbon and they have, you know, hydrogen atoms that completely fill fill up all four spots on the carbon atom. When you take away one hydrogen atom, this is, by the way, this is all I ever learned in organic chemistry. Worst grades I ever got in school was organic chemistry, but that's another story. When you take away a hydrogen atom, you get what's called a monounsaturated fatty acid. So you're only, mono meaning one hydrogen atom is missing. Those are your extra virgin olive oil, macadamia nut oil, and avocado oil. Those are usually the second most stable oils. And we like to use those oils because they taste good. They're very heart healthy. So coconut oil is a good, and butter are stable at, when you cook with them, but they don't really give you any heart benefits. So a lot of times we like to use extra virgin olive oil, and that's what she was advocating. The problem with extra virgin olive oil is it's not really that stable when you cook with it, because if you heat it up too much, it falls apart, basically. It burns. It has a low, what we call smoke point. So you really can't heat it. If you watch most Italians who cook with olive oil, they don't really cook with it. They kind of put it on afterwards, the extra virgin, that is. Now, here's the problem. Also, extra virgin olive oil is very sensitive to light, and it oxidizes easily, which means it loses all its health benefits. That's why when I was looking for the ideal cooking oil, I came up with, I found macadamia nut oil. I realized a lot of people weren't selling it. I found someone in South Africa who was able to produce it, they have the best soil there. And macadamia nut oil is a monounsaturated fat, like extra virgin olive oil. It's actually higher in monounsaturated fats than extra virgin olive oil. And it also has some omega-6 fats, but they're in the perfect 1-to-1 ratio. So it has omega-3s and 6s in a 1-to-1 ratio, which no other oil has. And its heat, has a very high smoke point. So it's over 410 degrees. So you can cook with it. It's light. It's not light sensitive. You don't have to put it in a dark bottle. It doesn't break down. Once you open up the bottle, it doesn't go bad after 30 days like extra virgin does, olive oil. And it's a better tasting oil. It tastes like butter. I put it on my kids' bagels. They think they're eating, bagel with butter on it. So great product. We sell it at speciesnutrition.com. Another great oil that's very stable too is avocado oil. Avocado oil is also a monounsaturated fat predominantly. It's very stable. You can cook with it as well. Doesn't quite taste as nice as macadamia oil. It doesn't have that buttery taste. It's kind of bland. You would think avocados, have a certain taste. The oil doesn't really have it's kind of a very neutrally taste. You can use it, but to me, macadamia oil is the best, and that's why that was the one I chose to produce. Now, the other oils, what we call the polyunsaturated, poly meaning missing many hydrogen atoms, make it very unstable when you heat these oils up. So corn oils, sunflower oils, safflower oils, canola oil, all these oils you do not really want to cook with, because they are dangerous when they get heated up and they lose their health benefits. That's why when you see French fries and stuff like that, I wish they made them in macadamia nut oil. It would be great, but they don't. They make them in these cooking oils that are very unstable when they're heated, and they lose health benefits. As a matter of fact, they become bad for your body. They cause inflammation. We don't want a lot of inflammation in the body, excessive inflammation, and these cooking oils do exactly that. And you see them in all the foods, any kind of chips, everything's made with these polyunsaturated, very, very unstable oils. Why? Because they're cheap. There's tons of corn oil and sunflower oil. They don't even know what to do with it. They put it in everywhere. They're trying to burn it for fuel now in cars. But the point is that they're not good for you. You do not want to consume these in high amounts. If you go into a restaurant and you're getting, some food, that's fine. But you shouldn't be on a regular basis, putting a lot of or cooking with these oils. The only oils, like I said, you should be cooking with really is macadamia nut oil, unless you want to use butter or ghee is another form of butter, or if you want to use some coconut oil. My whole take on those saturated fats, it's not that they're bad for you, they just don't offer any benefits. So I'm thinking, you know what? If I'm going to use an oil, I might as well use an oil that has health benefits. So that's why I recommend using extra virgin olive oil, avocado oil, or mac oil. It's just that you can't heat extra virgin olive oil, and avocado oil just doesn't taste that good. So check out the macadamia nut oil we sell at speciesnutrition.com for cooking. But in general, it's good to have this knowledge so that you know why you should be using certain oils and not using others.
All right, what the heck just happened?
We lost you.
Oh, here we go.
Oh, there you
We're back. Anyway, question about bad breath. So we go from cooking oils to bad breath. Any solutions for bad breath during the carb diet, during the dog days of prep? Gum and extra brushing are just not cutting it.
This is a good question. I'll tell you why. Because a lot of people think they have bad breath, and they really don't have bad breath. They actually have like body odor coming out of them. It's like an internal odor from their soul. It's coming, as we say. No, because look, if you have bad breath, means you ate something at the meal we just got done eating, and you have a bad taste in your mouth. That you can chew some gum for that, and that'll get rid of that, or you can brush your teeth. And now, some people will release certain spices through their breath too. If I eat too much garlic or onions, it's like I feel like a dragon breathing that. That's why I try to avoid that when I go to restaurants. I'm like, no garlic, no onions, if possible, because I just know it comes out of my pores too. Because depending on how your body gets rid of waste, some people's skin, and Italian, Greeks are big like this too, even Indians. Our bodies use our skin as an organ of getting rid of toxins, which is good in terms of, because think about how much skin you have. The problem is that anytime you eat something weird that smells weird, it's going to come out of your skin. And that's just, especially like, back in the day, we used to use DMSO, which was, to rub on for joints and stuff like that. And we'd rub like some of the fat burners on the skin, and we'd put the DMSO over it. And I would just reek of this stuff. It would come out of me. So it could come out of your skin. It could come out of your breath. A lot of guys that are on diets that have the bad breath, sometimes it's ketone breath, but ketone breath is usually a sweet smell. It's not usually like that ammonia-y smell. If you have an ammonia smell coming out of your breath, it's usually because you're either too acidic, your body, or there's ammonia coming out because you're maybe taking in too much protein. You're overwhelming your body's ability to neutralize that. I usually recommend that people try apple cider vinegar, Bragg's apple cider vinegar, a tablespoon 3 to 5 times a day with 6 ounces of water helps a lot. Using alkalinized water between meals helps a lot. Sometimes taking a greens product, just regular greens, that will help neutralize acidity and kind of create more of an alkaline environment in your body. And sometimes what you might have to do, if it won't go away, is just cut back how much protein you're eating. I knew a guy who would do 100 grams of protein to every meal, like, because he was doing like a lot of shakes. And I figured out when I sat down with him, he had this really bad odor coming out of his breath. And he was eating like 700 or 800 grams of protein a day. It was coming mostly from shakes, but the body can't handle all that ammonia, because when it breaks down protein, ammonia is released. And usually the body can neutralize that ammonia, but when you're eating that much and overwhelming the systems of your body, that to do that, your body's trying to get rid of it through skin, through this. And this person thought like their clothes weren't clean, but it wasn't that the clothes weren't clean. It was they were sweating it out their pores onto their clothes. They were breathing it out of their breath. I smelt it on them, and I told them, look, this is what you got to do. And it fixed the problem. So try to differentiate between bad breath and body odor, and then figure out what's causing that body odor to come out. Is it a spice you're eating, or is it you're eating too much protein, or maybe you're drinking too much alcohol? There's a lot of different reasons why that could happen, but diagnose it according to what your lifestyle is.
When would be the optimal time to have a high carb day to gain maximal benefit on a lagging body part? The day before or the day that you train that body part?
Well, I mean, it's pretty obvious. If you eat carbs the day you're training, unless you're training at like 12 midnight, like Greg Valentino, you're probably not going to notice the difference. If you eat, more carbs the day before, even have a cheat meal the day before, you're going to have a better pump in the gym when you train that body part the next day, because what you're using in the gym, like today, is really how you ate yesterday. So if you had a bad day yesterday, you were sick, you were depleted, you were dehydrated, you're probably going to have a shitty workout today. I always had the best workouts after taking like 5 days off. Like I went away to a bodybuilding show. I didn't work out at all. And I just kind of ate whatever I wanted. And then I came back, and that next day, it was like a killer workout because my body was recovered. I was fully carbed up. I wasn't depleted. Assuming I didn't get dehydrated on the airplane, I would have a great workout the next day. And that's why most people will try to do a cheat meal the day before their weaker body part, and they get a better workout then, especially while dieting. When you're on a diet phase, if your legs are weak, let's say, and you have your Saturday night cheat meal, Sunday morning, do your legs. You'll get a good workout in, believe me.
So the question is about having a preference of eating lamb rather than beef, and your thoughts on that, pros versus cons. I'm going to expand a little bit more.
Okay.
For bodybuilders, if you want to rank lamb, beef, poultry, steak, what should be the go-to that bodybuilder should eat?
It's a hard thing to rank, and I'll tell you why. Because all these cuts of meat really depend on what cut you're using. So I've eaten fatty cuts of steak, and then I've eaten really lean cuts of steak. I've had, fatty pieces of lamb. I've had, really lean. The only place I've ever eaten lamb is one of those Texas Day Brazil places where they kind of slice the stuff running. And I really love it a lot. I think it's delicious when it's made properly. I think that the key to what protein sources you should use are variant, meaning that a lot of times I don't eat a ton of red meat. I'll eat maybe, when I was in I guess the peak of my career, I would usually eat red meat once a day. And whether it be hamburgers or it be, steak, it was usually once a day. If I ate it more than once a day, like I felt like I was too full and I couldn't eat the rest of my food because it is much more filling and it takes your body a lot longer to digest it. So while I see guys eating, I eat steak 5 times a day. Well, yeah, all right, you know what? Yeah, but it's laying in your stomach most of the day. Okay, so you want protein sources that you can, get the amino acids from quickly too. So what I would always do, the way I structured my my eating, would be every other meal would be a shake because the shakes get absorbed instantly. Essentially, I mean, it takes 15 minutes. You absorb the whole thing, and then the meals you eat have to be digested. They can take 8 hours. I think Scott Connolly told me a steak meal is like 8 grams of protein per hour. So if you have if you ate a 40 grams worth of protein in steak, it's going to take you 5 hours to digest that. And most people are eating way more than that. So I think that red meat definitely has a place because it is one of these like pro-inflammatory type, protein sources, which is good. When you're trying to grow, you want a little bit of inflammation there. It has a lot of arachidonic acid in there. It has some fats in there too, which is going to make it a denser food source. But for most of the meals, you want something that you can digest relatively easy. So whether you're using fish or you're using chicken breasts or turkey breast, I always felt that those were even whole eggs. Eggs are digested relatively easy. I think that it's important to have that in the diet too. So the answer to the question is vary your protein sources. Just like you vary your fat sources, I think it's important to do that. And you should vary your carb sources because some carb sources are digested super easily, like rice and potatoes. And then a lot of times when I couldn't gain weight, I would switch to pasta. Pasta takes a long time to digest. It's a much lower glycemic carb, and it takes more time for your body to break it down. So I felt like that kind of sustained me more too. So I wouldn't use it during contest prep, but off season I used it a lot. Now some guys, they use it to get fat on it because they don't have good metabolism. But if you have a very fast metabolism, you want to slow it down. I would make a half a pound of pasta. I would put Parmesan cheese on it, and I would cut up pieces of chicken and throw it in there, mix it in, and I would sit there in front of the TV for an hour and eat that fucking huge vat of that stuff. And man, I felt full, and so full, in fact, that when my next meal was coming up, I'd have to do a shake because there's no way I was going to eat a meal after that, and that was fine. So that's why I always did meal, shake, meal, shake, meal, shake, and every protein source has a good potential to help you build muscle. I used a lot of sushi when I was trying to put muscle on because sushi it's raw protein. It gets absorbed relatively easily because fish is digested easily. You're not damaging it at all by heating it. So I always varied my protein sources, and I think that was the key to my success. I never just was one. I know guys that all they like is chicken breast. They eat it every single meal, and I think your body gets tired of it after a while. I really do. Or at least your brain does. I know I couldn't do the same thing every single meal. I do get a little bored, and I like to mix it up a little bit. But mixing up the ability to take in protein sources that have different digestion rates is also very important as well.
I'm getting ready to do a cruise of tests, dropping my dose down to a TRT level of about 2 to 250 for 3 to 4 weeks. What are your thoughts on taking Clen during this time to shed some fat before I start blasting again? I have recently hit a plateau and want to do kind of a reset.
Well, if you're doing it to kind of like because you're stagnant, I don't think that's a good idea. Okay, if you're stagnant, you should probably go off the drugs completely and not stay on HRT. Clean out, get those receptors to regenerate themselves maximally. Obviously, look, if you drop down from a full-blown cycle to 200 milligrams a week, you are taking down your dosage quite a bit. But you're not giving those receptors a chance to fully recover. They'll recover somewhat. If you come off completely, I mean, it's going to take 3 to 4 weeks for all the drugs to come out of your system anyway. So you're really going to be only off for 4 weeks if you went off for 8 weeks total. So what's 4 weeks? It's nothing, do it over the holiday. And then when you go back on, the reset is going to be incredible. Personally, I think people who try to do clenbuterol, like when they're, off cycle because they have to do something, I think that's a problem. Okay, it's a different story if you wanted to diet down and you had a photo shoot or something like that. Then I'm all in favor. But if you're doing it because you're a neurotic and you can't handle the fact that you're on no drugs, that's not good. Let the body recover. When you're off, be off. When I would go off, I'd be off everything. Okay, did I like it? No. But after like a couple of weeks, I forgot I was even off, and I actually felt good because my appetite would come back. When you're on drugs, you don't realize it. There's a toxic load on your body. And everyone's body handles that differently. But when you stop the drugs completely, you'll notice that you feel hungrier, you feel more energetic, you feel better. You can tell that there's a difference. Something's going on there because your body is healing itself. It's detoxifying itself. And that's good because you're going to go back on, you're going to blast again, and you're going to try to, grow, and you're going to jam a lot of nutrients in there, and you're going to be taking drugs. You got to give your body a break. You can't just cruise, okay, because of the psychological problems you have with thinking you're going to lose muscle. I went off. I was one of the biggest guys back in the day. I didn't lose muscle. So obviously you're not going to, if you lose all your muscle in an 8 week off period, when 4 or 5 of those weeks you actually still have stuff in your system, then you suck. Then that means you don't eat right, you don't train right, you don't sleep right, you don't really live the bodybuilding lifestyle. You live what I call the drug lifestyle. You have to be as diligent of a bodybuilder when you're off drugs as when you're on drugs. And when you do that, that's when you're going to make the best gains. And even Ronnie Coleman would go off. Even Kevin Levrone would go off for 6 months. So, and these were some of the best bodybuilders in the world. You got to give your body a break every once in a while. And cruising is not the answer.
It was a question about quads. Here we go. So, I mean, he calls it basic squats. I don't know if there's a general term for basic when it comes to squats, but if you wanted to grow quads, could you get away with just basic squats and leg extensions? Your guide to growing bigger quads.
I say yes. I think that if you had to pick 2 exercises that you did for legs and you just squatted and did leg extensions, you probably would be, obviously I'd like to see some hamstring curls too, but you would grow fine. I don't think there's anything necessary. If you're a good squatter, I remember Jerry Scalisi told me years ago, he listens to all these shows. Jerry told me that for a while, all he did was squat. He would go into the gym and squat and he would leave. And that's all he did. And he had the biggest legs I've ever seen. So squatting hits every aspect of your legs, your adductors, your quads, your hamstrings, your glutes. I mean, there's nothing you're missing. If you're doing full range, into the bucket, squats with good form and controlled descent, there's nothing else you need to do. Does it mean that the other exercises can't help? No, they can help, obviously, but that should be your main thrust. But yes, I agree with him. If you just squatted and did nothing else, you'd be fine. If you squatted and did some leg extensions and leg curls, you'd still be fine. If you just leg pressed and hack squatted and didn't squat, would you be fine? No, I don't think you'd have as good legs as if you just squatted. Because I think squatting is the best exercise for building legs. Bar none. There's nothing that replaces squats because of the balance aspect of it, the completeness of the way it hits your legs, the ability for you to kind of find a comfortable spot to put your feet in. Because remember, when you're on a machine, the machine kind of locks you into a certain position. I just think there's nothing to replace it. Now, not everyone can do squats because some people have injuries, but if you have no injuries and you just don't like squats because they hurt, then guess what? You're never going to have the best legs. I hated and I loved doing squats workouts every week with a passion. I hated it with a passion and I loved it with a passion. I would think about it all day. I couldn't wait to get to the gym to do it. I also loathed the fact that I had to do it because I knew it was going to hurt. But after I was done, I loved it. I loved the fact that I got that workout done. I felt like every workout I did, I was making improvements in my legs. And that's what you have to do. if you want to have the best set of wheels that you can possibly have. Everyone who's ever built great legs has used squats at one point, okay? Some people have had injuries and had to switch afterwards, but most people built their legs with squats. Yeah, I know don't point out one person that didn't do it. I'm just saying the majority of people who have great legs were squatters.
Take one more question. If you could only pick one training split for mass, what would it be?
I stick by my one body part per day once a week. I started working with this guy at Crunch, and I started helping him out. He was originally a football player, and this guy, I got to the gym and he just started doing back. I said, "Oh, you want to train back together?" He's like, "Yeah." And then he proceeds to tell me he just finished legs. So he was doing back and legs on the same day. He would 3.5 hours he would be in the gym every day. I didn't know he was. I said, "You got to do one body part per day. You shouldn't want to do another body part. If you want to do another body part after the first body part, then either you're a psychopath or you just didn't train hard enough." And he wasn't obviously training hard enough. He didn't realize it. He was just going through the motions. Because when you do that much volume, it's impossible to really give 100% to what you're doing. So I do legs one day, I do shoulders one day, I do arms one day, I do chest one day, and I do back one day. And I usually do 3 days on, 1 day off, 2 days on, 1 day off. And each body part gets trained once a week. I try to keep the workouts under an hour or at an hour if I can do it. Sometimes legs can take a little longer because you got to rest in between sets. But you don't want to do long workouts. You want to do high intensity, heavy weight, and really, demolish the muscle in as few sets as possible with the highest intensity level you can put forth. So that when you're done with your sets, you just want to go home. Okay. If you're looking to do more after the workout's over, then that means you didn't give 100% to the workout. Okay, if you give 100% to the workout, you should be like, "Thank God I'm leaving," because I don't want to be here anymore. I'm so traumatized emotionally, and my nervous system is traumatized because I gave so much to that workout. And it's hard to do that yourself. Sometimes you need a training partner to do that. But once you can master that, you're going to see the best results you had, and you're going to realize, thank God I only have to train my legs once a week because I couldn't put forth that effort more than once a week. It's just impossible.
And that is going to do for this episode of Ask Dave. Again, if you haven't already done so, subscribe below, hit the notification bell. We have all new episodes of the After Hours podcast yesterday, as well as Heavy Muscle Radio, as well as a very cool podcast with Dave, Jimmy Mentis, and Jimmy the Bull joining in about halfway through the show. A great conversation about hardcore training, old school training. Jimmy Mentis telling us about how he plans on competing at the upcoming Masters Olympia. So it's going to be very cool. And we will be sure to follow him along to his, on his journey to the Masters Olympia, making a comeback, getting on that stage. And that's really what the Masters Olympia is all about. And we're going to have a great opportunity. It's a great story. So we're going to see Jimmy Mentis back on stage. And then, of course, Jimmy the Bull kind of giving us the lowdown on what's going on with him, his health scares, and everything in between. But again, that on the channel right now. Subscribe below if you like what you're watching. Hit the like button and comment below. And as always, we appreciate all of your support this and throughout the course of the year. For Dave Palumbo, I'm Sadiq Faruqi. We'll see you next time.